All right, welcome to this episode today. It's my free agency edition. Good Sunday afternoon. I'm Mason Spesky, your host. Today we are going to go through a lot of the free agents that will be available. There are 659 of them, although I promise you we will not be doing this for 659 players. That I promise you. However, we're going to just go through the top free agents, and I will predict where they will be signing. Tomorrow starts the legal tampering period, and Wednesday starts the new league year where free agents are free to sign wherever they want to sign. So that'll be interesting, that's for sure. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Sailing. First off, we're going to start with Kirk Cousins. I predict that he will sign with the Denver Broncos. I know it's weird because they're probably going to they might end up drafting a quarterback. However, for some reason, I feel like this would be a good fit. I think it's going to be a better fit for him than Atlanta, which is where a lot of other people think he will sign. I think Kirk Cousins will be signing with the Denver Broncos. Ryan Tannehill, I think he will be signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he would be well with Arthur Smith's offense, and I think that's what the Steelers are going to try to do. Leonard Williams, I think that he is going to stay put in Seattle. I think the Seahawks will re-sign Leonard Williams. Jamal Adams, I feel like he will end up signing with the New Orleans Saints. I think this would be a good fit for him, and I think he will sign with the Saints. Danielle Hunter, I think he will leave the Vikings and head to Tennessee. I think he will get a nice deal in Tennessee, and I think that's where he'll sign. J.C. Jackson, Patriots cornerback, I think he inks a one-year deal down south in Tampa Bay. So I think he'll be with the Buccaneers at the start of next year. Emmanuel Ogbah, leaving the Miami Dolphins. He will be headed south. He will be staying down south and signing instead with the Carolina Panthers. So I think they will be the team that signs Ogbah. Allen Robinson, Pittsburgh Steelers. He's going to leave the Steelers, and I feel like he will head to the Kansas City Chiefs. That's where I think Robinson will sign. Justin Simmons, Denver Broncos. I feel like a team easily in the market for safeties are the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think he will sign in Philly. Odell Beckham Jr., Baltimore Ravens. I think he will stay in Baltimore on a one-year deal. Carl Lawson, he'll leave the Jets, and he'll go to the Indianapolis Colts, I believe. Budda Baker, Arizona Cardinals. I don't think he's staying. I think instead he's going to go to the Detroit Lions. Eddie Jackson, Chicago Bears. I think he will leave Chicago and go to Kansas City. Actually, I think Kansas City will sign him. Randy Gregory, San Francisco 49ers. I think he will leave the Niners and go to the Minnesota Vikings. Adoree Jackson, New York Giants. I think he leaves the Giants and heads to the Cleveland Browns, because I think they'll trade Greg Newsome, unfortunately. Quandre Diggs, I think Seattle Seahawks, he's obviously leaving the Seahawks. I think he's going to want to go back down south and join the Atlanta Falcons, which would make a good fit for him. Marcus Davenport, Minnesota Vikings, I think he leaves the Vikings and goes to the Commanders. I think that's going to be their big signing. I think he'll go to the Commanders. Kevin Byard, Philadelphia Eagles. I think he will. Obviously, he's leaving the Eagles. However, I don't see him moving too far, as I think he'll go to the Cincinnati Bengals on a cheap contract. Derrick Henry, Tennessee Titans. I think he heads to Baltimore. Jerome Baker, Miami Dolphins. I think he heads to D.C. Charles Leno, Washington Commanders. He's obviously not going back there. Why not put him in Pittsburgh? I think he'll sign with the Steelers. Romeo Okwara, Detroit Lions. He's obviously leaving Detroit. I think he will be going to the Los Angeles Chargers. Tyron Smith, Dallas Cowboys. I think he'll go to the Commanders. I did kind of hear that this morning, so. Josh Jacobs, Las Vegas Raiders. I think he leaves Vegas and goes to Chicago with the Bears. Zadarius Smith, Cleveland Browns. He'll leave Cleveland and go join the New York Jets. That defense. Curtis Samuel, Washington Commanders. He leaves the Commanders, I feel like, and joins the Falcons. Tyler Boyd, Cincinnati Bengals. I think he comes home to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yannick Ngakoue, Chicago Bears. He'll leave Chicago and play for the Dallas Cowboys. Tony Pollard, Dallas Cowboys. He will leave the Cowboys and sign a contract to play. Hang on, let me think about this one. I'm sorry. In Vegas, he'll replace Josh Jacobs as the Raiders lead back. Saquon Barkley, New York Giants. I think he will go to the Eagles. I think they'll offer him a big deal, and I think he'll take it. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, he'll leave Kansas City and sign a contract with the Tennessee Titans. Stephon Gilmore, Dallas Cowboys. He's obviously not going to be back in Dallas. I think he signs with the Cardinals. Mitch Morse, Buffalo Bills. I think he signs with the Steelers. I just do. Micah Hyde, Buffalo Bills. I think he's going to head to the Chicago Bears, which would be a good thing for him. Chase Young, San Francisco 49ers. I think he stays put in San Fran. Jeff Okudah, Atlanta Falcons. I think he leaves the Falcons and goes and joins the Carolina Panthers. Tracy Walker, Detroit Lions. Obviously, he's leaving the Lions. I think he will go to Vegas and play for the Raiders. Kenny Moore, Indianapolis Colts. I think he'll stay put in Indy. Logan Thomas, former Commander. He will instead head to Minnesota to be the tight end for the Vikings. They need a backup, obviously, because TJ Hawkinson is still hurt, I think, for a little bit. Will Dissly, Seattle Seahawks. I think he heads down south to Vegas to complement Michael Mayer in that offense. Jacoby Brissett, Washington Commanders. I think he goes up to New England again to be with the Patriots. CJ Uzomah, New York Jets. I think he's another tight end in the Falcons offense. I think they're going to spend big again this year under new head coach Raheem Morris. Vontae Maddox, Philadelphia Eagles. I think he goes to Chicago to play for the Bears. Cedric Wilson, Miami Dolphins. He'll sign with the Saints, I think. Devin White, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think he'll leave Tampa and get a massive contract in D.C. with the Commanders. Calais Campbell, Atlanta Falcons. He'll leave the Falcons and go to Dallas. Patrick Peterson, Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, obviously he's leaving the Steelers. He will get a nice contract to finish out his career in home at Arizona. Leonard Floyd, Buffalo Bills. He will leave Buffalo and instead join the division rival Patriots. Eric Kendricks, Los Angeles Chargers, is leaving the Chargers and will sign with another division rival, the Chiefs. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he'll be an interesting one for sure. He's obviously, I don't think he'll stay with the Lions. I think he's going to want to go back to Sean Payton's territory in Denver. He will sign with the Broncos. Jordan Poyer, Buffalo Bills. I think he will leave, obviously he's leaving Buffalo, and I think he will test out the waters in D.C. with the Commanders. Austin Eckler, former Los Angeles Chargers running back. He will be the one that replaces Tony Pollard in Dallas, signing with the Cowboys. Bobby Wagner, Seattle Seahawks. I think he'll stay in Seattle or retire. Cordero Patterson, Atlanta Falcons. I think he will go join the Minnesota Vikings on a contract. Jordan Whitehead, New York Jets. I think he will go to Kansas City to play for the Chiefs. Isaiah Simmons, New York Giants, former first-round pick who should have never busted but did. I think he will sign with the Colts. C.J. Henderson, Carolina Panthers. He'll leave the Panthers and he'll instead get a contract with the LA Rams. Kendrick Bourne, New England. He's going to stay in New England. He's already said he wants to, and I think he will. Azeez Al-Shaair, Tennessee Titans. I think he will sign instead next year with the Minnesota Vikings. Marcus Mariota, Philadelphia Eagles. I think he will leave the Eagles for the Giants. DJ Chark, Carolina Panthers. I think he obviously is going to leave the Panthers for the Falcons. Jamal Agnew, Jacksonville Jaguars. He will leave there for New England. Paris Campbell, New York Giants. Grass is greener in Arizona, where he will be headed. Sam Darnold, San Francisco. I think he'll stay in San Fran. Steven Nelson, Houston Texans. He'll leave Houston and he'll sign with Denver, I think. Mike Gesicki, New England Patriots. I think he leaves New England to get a starting job in Carolina. Nyheim Hines, Buffalo Bills, gets a cheap contract in Kansas City to back up Pacheco. Gus Edwards, Baltimore Ravens. He'll leave the Ravens for Philadelphia. Lavonte David, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He'll stay put in Tampa. Jonah Williams, Cincinnati Bengals. He'll leave the Bengals for the Seahawks. Will Lutz, Denver Broncos. He'll resign. Levi Wallace, Pittsburgh Steelers. He will replace Steven Nelson in Houston with the Texans. Drew Lock, Seattle Seahawks. He will leave Seattle and instead sign with the Miami Dolphins to back up to become with Tua. I don't think he's the backup because I think they still have Mike White a year, but he'll be third string. Rock Ya-Sin, Baltimore Ravens. I think he will sign with the Steelers. Baker Mayfield, Tampa. I think he'll stay put in Tampa. Mecole Hardman, Kansas City. He'll stay put in Kansas City. Javon Kinlaw, San Francisco 49ers. He'll leave the 49ers and sign with the Patriots. Christian Wilkins, Miami Dolphins. He will leave the Dolphins and sign in D.C. Jalen Mills, Patriots. He'll stay put in New England. Cody Barton, Washington Commanders. He will sign with the Browns. Selby Harris, Cleveland Browns. He'll leave the Browns and sign with the Dolphins. Braxton Berrios, Miami. This is funny because he is a Dolphin. He'll leave there and sign with the Raiders. Gardner Minshew, Indianapolis. He will stay with the Colts, I believe. Devin Bush, Seattle Seahawks. He'll leave Seattle and go to Denver, I think. Alexander Madison, Minnesota Vikings. He'll leave the Vikings and become a backup in Tennessee. Zach Griffin, he'll leave the Panthers and he will sign instead with the Eagles. Kilavon Chason, Jacksonville Jaguars. I think he stays put. Kenneth Murray, LA Chargers. He'll leave the Chargers and sign with the 49ers. Noah Fant, Seattle Seahawks. He'll leave the Seahawks and sign a cheap contract in Detroit to back up Sam Laporta in the Lions. Also, he got engaged too, so congratulations to him. Darnell Savage, he will leave the Packers and sign in D.C. with the Commanders. Patrick Queen, Baltimore Ravens. He'll leave the Ravens and go to New England. Josh Reynolds, Detroit Lions. He'll leave the Lions and sign with the Bengals. Dante Fowler Jr., Dallas Cowboys. He'll leave there. He won't be in Dallas. He'll sign with Jacksonville. But Dupree, Atlanta. He'll leave Atlanta and join him in join Fowler Jr. in Jacksonville. Zeke Elliott, New England Patriots. I predict he'll leave the Patriots and sign in Cincinnati to work with Chase Brown ahead of their expected release of Joe Mixon or possible release of Joe Mixon. Randall Cobb, New York Jets. I think he resigns in the Jets. Hollywood Brown, Arizona Cardinals. He'll leave the Cardinals and go to Carolina. Devin Singletary, Houston Texans. He'll stay put. Austin Hooper, Las Vegas Raiders. He'll join the Bengals. Graham Glasgow, Detroit. He'll stay in Detroit. Calvin Ridley, Jacksonville. I think he heads to New England. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Kansas City. I think he goes to Dallas. Tommy Townsend, Kansas City. I think he signs with the Steelers. Noah Brown, Houston. He will go to the Vikings. Greg Zuerlein, the Jets. He'll stay put. This is a long list. Jadeveon Clowney, Baltimore. I think he will instead sign with the Miami Dolphins. Montravius Adams, Pittsburgh. I think he leaves Pittsburgh for the Detroit Lions. Joe Flacco, Cleveland. I don't think he'll stay in Cleveland. I think he will go be the backup to Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. Clelin Ferrell, 49ers. He'll leave the Niners and go instead to the Eagles. Matt Collins, Atlanta. I think he'll sign with the Steelers. Nick Folk, New England. He will leave the Patriots and instead sign with... Who does not have a kicker right now? 49ers, he'll mentor Jake Moody for a year, and I think Moody will be ready at that point to get back the starting job, so he'll go to the Niners. Tyler Matakevich, Buffalo Bills, I think he heads to Seattle. Sion Takitaki, Cleveland, I think he'll leave Cleveland for the Texans. Solomon Thomas, New York Jets, he'll leave the Jets, I think, to go to the Chargers. DeAndre Swift, Philadelphia, he'll leave Philly, and I think he will get a nice, somewhat sizable contract in Tampa Bay. Keanu Neal, Pittsburgh, I think he'll leave Pittsburgh, and he will instead go to the Rams. Xavier McKinney, Giants, I think he'll sign with Philly. Dane Jackson, Buffalo, he'll leave Buffalo and head to Tennessee. Miles Kilbrew, Pittsburgh, I think he's staying put. Pittsburgh. Ray McLeod, San Francisco, I think a good team for him will be the Patriots, and I think that's where he ends up. Brandon McManus, Jacksonville, he'll stay put. Sorry about that. Laviska Shenault, Carolina, he'll leave Carolina and instead sign with the Chiefs. Son Elliott, Miami, he'll leave Miami and go to Cleveland. Chase Claypool, Miami, he'll leave Miami and sign with Atlanta. Mack Wilson, linebacker, New England, he will stay in New England. Zach Leonard, Philly, I think he will leave Philadelphia and get a big contract in Denver with the Broncos. Cam Akers, Minnesota, he will re-sign. AJ Epinesa, Buffalo, he'll leave Buffalo and instead ink a contract in New Orleans with the Saints. J.K. Dobbins, he'll leave Baltimore and get a nice contract with the Browns in case they release Nick Chubb. Van Jefferson, Atlanta, he'll leave Atlanta and join the Jets. Kareem Hunt, Cleveland, he will be replaced by Dobbins and he will venture off to Denver. Rashad Penny, he'll leave Philly, I believe, and get a contract in Buffalo as a backup to James Cook. Josh Uche, New England, he'll leave the Patriots, I think, for the San Francisco 49ers. A.J. Dillon, Green Bay, I think he'll leave Green Bay to be the backup to Ramondre Stevenson in Foxborough. David Mayo, linebacker, why not play for Coach Mayo? You're going to go to New England. Jerick McKinnon, Kansas City, he will leave Kansas City for the Falcons. Jimmy Graham, New Orleans, he'll stay put. Quan Alexander, Pittsburgh, I think he goes to Seattle. Trey Turner, New Orleans, I think he will go to the Jets. Carson Wentz, Los Angeles, he will leave LA for Dallas to back up Dak. Jeremy Chin, Carolina, he'll go to Philly. They always had interest in him, he'll go there. James Pierre, he'll leave Pittsburgh and instead go to Indianapolis. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, he'll leave the Titans and sign with the Patriots. Tone Gibson, leaving the Commanders, he will sign as a third-string running back in Seattle. Chase Edmonds, he'll stay in Tampa. Zacchaeus, Omonde Zacchaeus, he'll sign with the Browns. It's a really good fit for him. Isaiah McKenzie will leave the Colts and get a contract with the Cardinals. Julian Okwara will leave Detroit and go to the Packers. Zach Bond will leave New Orleans, sign with the Panthers. Chris Conley will leave San Francisco and join the Buffalo Bills. Nick Vannett, he'll leave the Chargers, and he will instead sign with the Eagles. Randy Bulk will stay with the Giants. Anthony Barr will leave the Vikings for the Packers. Lloyd Quisenberry will also join the Packers from Denver. Zach Moss will leave the Colts. He will be a running back instead with the Jets. Pat Eiflin will leave the Cardinals. He will be going to San Francisco. Devin Duvernay, he'll stay in Baltimore. Troutman, he'll leave the Broncos, I think, to go to Miami. Arthur Mollett, he'll stay in Baltimore. Akella Witherspoon will stay in LA. Mason Rudolph will stay in Pittsburgh. Chris Wormley will leave Carolina for Denver. J.C. Hassenauer will leave the Giants for Tennessee. Jonathan Owens, Simone Biles' husband, will resign in Green Bay. Dylan Rager will leave the Patriots for a return to Philly. General Olszewski will leave the Giants for a return to Foxborough, New England. Kevon Wallace will leave the Titans for Green Bay. Tyler Bietsas will leave Dallas for Buffalo. Juwan Jennings will stay in San Francisco. Shane Zylstra will leave Detroit for the Bears. Shane Lemieux will leave the Giants for Miami. Darnell Mooney will leave Chicago for Denver. KJ Osborne will leave the Vikings for the Eagles. Presley Harvin was with the Steelers. He'll sign instead with the Vikings. God bless him. Donovan Peoples-Jones will leave the Detroit Lions for, let me think about this one, the Houston Texans. Josh Blackwell will leave the Bears for the Seahawks. Quez Watkins will leave the Eagles for the Patriots. Eno Benjamin will leave the Saints and go to the Raiders. Jonathan Ledbetter will stay with the Cardinals. These are just guesses, by the way. James Houston will leave Detroit and instead get a nice contract in Houston. I think we're nearing the end. Okay, yeah, that's actually the end. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed these 23 minutes of me just rambling on about nothing. So that's all I have. Have a good one. Enjoy free agency. We'll talk about it possibly when it's all done. Take care, stay safe, and as always, peace. See you on the next video.